This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast. Fact Check This podcast, episode 38, and it's a special Friday bonus episode because Gina Carano got canceled for pointing out historical accuracies. I mean, that's the ultimate fact check. To get canceled for stating something that's factually true and historically relevant. So Gina Carano got canceled. She got fired from The Mandalorian for retweeting a post that it showed a picture and it said that Jews were being beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors and even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? And it's completely accurate, like everything about that is true. And the reason she got fired was because it's insensitive, because it makes the gives the vague impression that she is calling leftists Nazis and claiming that they're trying to round up conservatives and put them in concentration camps. At no point in any of that did she actually call anybody a Nazi. Unlike the dozens upon dozens upon dozens of leftist politicians, media people, actors, actresses, musicians, and singers, athletes, like everybody in the mainstream culture has spent the last 4 years actually calling anyone who voted for Donald Trump a Nazi. She did not call anyone a Nazi. She made a historical reference to things that happened at one time and the likeness to things that are happening now. And that got her fired. Her co-star, whatever his fucking name is, obviously I pay a lot of attention to mainstream culture. I did watch the first season of The Mandalorian, and I liked it a lot. And I haven't watched the second season just because I haven't really cared to. I did like the first season; it was good. I don't feel like. So, as a Star Wars fan, I'm gonna nerd out for a second here. As a Star Wars fan, I feel like the series is well done, but I don't see what value or necessarily what purpose it brings to expanding the overall story and universe of Star Wars. So while I will take time to sit down and watch it from time to time, I don't religiously watch it because I just don't see the overarching value in it within the greater Star Wars universe. So moving on to, but her co-star had actually posted something that directly called people Nazis. And there's a Disney producer that has and I'm sure everybody's seen it, and if you haven't seen it, it doesn't take much to find it because it's out there. There's a Disney producer who has a tweet that says, "Stick MAGA kids in a wood chipper head first." Now we're not talking about like the libertarians who say wood chipper go burr in reference to pedophiles. Like, this is a guy talking about sticking children in a wood chipper MAGA hat first. And the graphic is pretty fucking disturbing, to be honest. Like, yeah, all of these people are still employed. And the big thing that I really want to get to in this, and this is going to be a fairly short episode. I don't intend to do a full episode, but who knows? We'll see how that goes. But the big thing that I really wanted to get to with it is, number one, the total hypocrisy of the fact that they have spent literally 4 years just absolutely berating anyone who might have even shown an inkling of being conservative in the least tiny bit, even if you aren't actually conservative and you just suggest that maybe we shouldn't act like psychopaths, they would go after those people as well. And they have absolutely no shame. And so those people can do whatever they want. But the second somebody who has a dissenting opinion even provides something that is historically factual and doesn't make any accusations whatsoever against specific people, that person gets fired because why? Because it pissed off somebody that is actually engaging in fascist Nazi-ish practices? Like, fuck these people. They're horrible. And it gets back to something that I talked about on, I can't remember if it was the Monday or Wednesday's episode, but something I talked about earlier in the week is that, you know, it was a quote from Tim Pool, that these people don't care. They don't care if they're being hypocritical. They don't care if they have double standards, because none of those standards actually matter to them. Like, the only thing that matters to them is doing what will make them come out looking like the good guy. And at what point has cancel culture ever actually accomplished anything positive? I make the reference to it all the time, but like Ben Shapiro, who knew who Ben Shapiro was, or gave two shits about Ben Shapiro, other than he was a guy that went on college campuses and did lectures and talks, and he kind of had a viral following because he would just absolutely destroy the arguments that some of these extreme leftists on college campuses would make. And that's easy to do because a lot of time the extreme left-wing college kids have absolutely no real-world experience and don't know what the fuck they're talking about in any way at all. And so they would make these arguments and he would just completely obliterate them. And it was hilarious to watch and highly entertaining and also very informative. And, you know, it gives you an insight into what their brains are, you know, how their brains work, and also, you know, what the actual facts and statistics and truth of things are when those topics are getting brought up. But that led to a cancel culture society that was summarily running him off of campuses and not letting him do his lectures and not letting him give talks and trying to get him fired from his job and so on and so forth. And it ended up turning into the Daily Wire. Like, he was able to turn the entire cancel culture society that came after him into a multi-million-dollar media business. Like, it doesn't work. Anytime somebody gets sucked up in this cancel culture bullshit, usually what ends up happening is the people who support them latch on and they end up doing fine. And in some cases, like Shapiro, they end up doing better than they probably would have if they had been left alone to begin with. Like, and it gets to something that, you know, we should have been taught as children, and some of us who are, you know, my age and around my age and older probably were taught, is if you see something or you hear something that you don't like, unless it's like directly causing harm to other people or something like that. If you see something, you hear something, and you don't like it, or somebody's, you know, throwing insults at you or whatever, then you say bye. You know, like, you just ignore that person and move on. I don't know how many people on Facebook, Twitter, everywhere that I just mute them or unfollow or snooze or whatever. Like, you can just remove those things and then you get on with life, and you can be a much happier person for it. I don't understand the constant need to be offended and a victim all the time. It's just abso-fucking-lutely ridiculous. But that is the leftist culture, and that's the thing that is driving society right now. And it's really a fucking shame. Like, it is an absolute shame, because that's the world that I have to raise my kids in. And I'm trying to raise them to not be those people. But, like, it's hard because culture dictates everything. Regardless of how you feel about it or want to think or feel or look at it, culture really does have a huge impact on everything in our lives. And it's almost impossible to get away from it. Because we have to live in this society, and that is what this society entails at this point. So it's really a shame, but at the same time, it is refreshing to see that when those things do happen, like, there is typically a huge backlash, and there is typically some other avenue out there for these people that when this sort of thing happens, they find support and they find something else. And it's going to happen for Gina Carano. Like, she'll find a place that she fits, and honestly, it'll probably be better for her because she won't have to deal with any of this sort of bullshit that is coming from all of this situation. So, there are silver linings to everything, but the cancel culture thing is insane. And the fact that it's so hypocritical, the way that they have spent the last 4 years behaving, and now that they have control. And honestly, let's not kid ourselves. Like, this has been happening since Obama's administration, and even with Trump in the White House, they were still doing this sort of thing, and they're never going to stop doing it. But anybody who has a dissenting opinion is going to be at the risk of getting canceled. And if you won't wear a mask, or if you won't get on board with any of whatever other regulations that are going to be coming from a Biden administration and the left having control of everything, it's not inaccurate to say that you are going to very possibly be persecuted for it. I mean, we've seen it already with the COVID stuff and the masks. Like, how many people have had their businesses turned in because they weren't enforcing mask mandates? How many people have had people cops come after them because they refuse to wear masks? I mean, we've all seen the videos. It's out there. It's happening. And it's not happening because the police are roaming around trying to find these people. It's happening because neighbors are reporting people to the police and giving them the opportunity to come get them. It is the Nazi Germany meme or post that Gina Carano made being brought to life, being coming up right now in our very own communities, and they want to act like she was saying something inflammatory. No, inflammatory is encouraging people to turn their neighbors in over some bullshit that doesn't matter anyway. That is what should really be offensive to people. And then another thing I wanted to talk about very, very briefly, because I didn't intend to do an episode today, but there's reports coming out that show that New York State was hiding nursing home data to keep the feds from finding out how many senior citizens actually died from COVID-19 when Andrew Cuomo sent all of them back to the nursing homes. And this isn't news. This isn't like it's something that nobody knew about, but it's not getting nearly the traction or the publicity that it should be. Because basically what happened was they sent all of these nursing home patients back to the nursing homes to infect everybody else in the nursing home and just die. And then they covered all of it up, and they tried to pretend that it didn't happen. And they tried to act like Andrew Cuomo was some fucking saint and hero of a pandemic, when in fact, I mean, and this is all statistically true, New York has had the worst death rates of any state, period. And there's no way, considering the mortality rates amongst senior citizens, there's no way to look at it in any other way than his actions directly affected the numbers and directly had an impact on killing tens of thousands of otherwise probably alright folks. Yes, they were old and in nursing homes, but if they had kept the patients isolated to hospitals and stuff and not sent them back in, because a nursing home is just a giant petri dish, central air, everything about the lockdowns and the restrictions and all of that have been completely fucking insane, because getting out and vitamin D deficiency has been one of the leading symptoms of those who have died of COVID, and they won't let us go fucking outside. Central heat and air systems that circulate the same air through an entire building, that's obviously going to help propagate and spread a virus. Like, it doesn't matter how many fucking masks you wear. At that point, you're stuck in the giant petri dish. So they're sending these people back. And Cuomo even admitted it himself. Like, he even said, within the last month, I think it was, he said that whether they died in the hospital or whether they died in the nursing home, what does it matter? They died. It's close to 13,000 senior citizens who died of COVID, basically because of the administration in New York, Andrew Cuomo and all of his people fucking dropped the ball, and then they're being heralded as heroes, as if they did it right. He wrote a book. What's the book say? It's a lot more cost effective to put sick people back in a nursing home and let them die than to go around and put a bullet in their head. Then you don't have to waste money on bullets, because that's exactly what they fucking did. I don't understand. I don't understand how this is not resulting in criminal charges being pressed against this man. Like, not only did they do it, they have also covered it up. And it's out there on record that they covered it up. Like, they have talked about the fact that they covered it up. Everything about this is criminal. If this was Ron DeSantis or what's his name, Kemp in Georgia, like if the same thing had happened in Texas or Florida or Georgia, and all of this was coming out that they had covered up numbers and hid stuff and lied about something, like blatantly lied about the numbers, every one of them would be right now on trial for the culpability of killing all of these people. But because it's Andrew Cuomo, their golden child, they're coming around to his turn. If they get fed up with Kamala between now and whenever Biden croaks, they very well may tab Cuomo for the next presidential candidate from the Democratic Party. Like, he is one of their golden boys. And if it was anybody other than him that had all of this coming out, they would be on trial right the fuck now. But instead, they're wasting their time on some dumb shit with a second Trump impeachment that's not going to go anywhere, and completely ignoring all of these stories that tell just how bad these Democratic governors have been. There's the stuff coming out of Kentucky that 400,000 emails about unemployment were just blatantly ignored by Bashir and his people. They're trying to recall Gavin Newsom in California because of his draconian lockdowns and everything that he's done that have not helped anything and have just been totally a shit show and have made things worse, if anything. Mostly have made things worse because they haven't allowed people to actually do the things that would help people be healthy and safe and have a good life. And if any of these Democratic governors, or if any of the Republican governors who, were so criticized for not enforcing stricter lockdowns and for opening things back up and kind of letting life go on as usual, if any of them had any of these reports coming out, it would be front page every fucking day until they were actually crucified in the streets. But the Democrats do it, and it's nothing. It gets brushed under the rug and completely ignored. And it gets back to what we talked about in the first half of the episode of there's a narrative that has to be pushed. And if you are not willing to push the narrative, you're not going to last very long. It's scary shit. It scares me. And I don't scare easily. But it's like, I realize the day will come when I have to defend myself, and I'm prepared. And you should be too. That's the end of this one. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Don't do anything to get yourself canceled. And have a good one. Later.